Live from the Pathway Studios in Johnston proper. You are live from the path.
Holy Ghost, work for the Son. I am a working man. Oh yes, I am. I am a special.
And there it goes. It's gone. I'm very sorry about that. We used to have a smooth operation around here, and that has ceased. And it's not due to lack of funds. It's just laziness and otherwise other corporate problems that aren't your frickin' business. So anyway, you're listening live from the path. Thanks for hanging out with us. Here's what we got going on the show tonight. So Mike says, I didn't quite understand the premise here, Mike. Do we owe Joel Osteen an apology?
You know, here's the deal. I can't tell. I mean, it just, this is why I can't take in media. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter what I take in. This happened actually this week because I watched What the Health on the Netflix.
Was it? I'm sorry, what?
It's called What the Health.
What is that?
It's a documentary. It's basically a scourge on all animals and animal proteins.
You shouldn't, like vegan. You should go vegan?
Well, it's not vegetarian, right? It's the vegan. It's the complete, whatever, you can't have any animal byproducts either, right? No dairy, no butter,
no eggs,
no egg.
Yeah.
And actually, this is where he sold me. It's because actually, I thought this thing's stupid. I can't believe any of this, until the man goes, "Have you looked at an egg?" He goes, "That egg is enough protein and nutrients to raise an entire chicken for 21 weeks, and you cobbling a whole one down." Every day, you're going to have 2 of those a day?
There's bigger than a chicken.
There's hunger, yeah.
There's enough nutrients in there to sustain a chicken for 21 days. And you're going to go, chicken. I'll have it. He goes, that can't be right. And I thought, about daggum. Maybe he's right. That does seem a bit excessive. It's not like I go pick up an entire chicken and eat him head first. You know what I'm saying? Like I cut him into pieces. I serve him to the whole family. But not that little one. I'll eat all of his nutrients and protein for his entire gestation period in one go. And I thought, maybe I should be a vegan.
Hey, but you know who doesn't consider that? Like a lion that otherwise takes down an antelope.
I suppose
he eats the whole antelope.
But that was his other fact. He had diagrams, right? He said, "Look, because one of the main proponents of that we are to be eating meat is because we have the incisors, right?" And they go, "Look at your incisors. Do your incisors look like a bear or a lion's because you tear in flesh? No, they do not. They don't look anything like that. And look at your intestines. The intestines of a meat-eating animal is like, what did they say it was, like three times." Or whatever, and the because they have to have the food move through the stomach fast, otherwise it rots because it's meat.
Yeah, right.
But a plant eater, it's like 9 times the size, and so we have 9 times the size, just like deer and whatever other animals only eat vegetation. And so that was his big point. He sold me on the egg thing, and then he sold me on the size of the intestines.
That's like, Wait, but wouldn't that mean that my belly is always full of rotten meat?
I
mean, that would explain a couple of different
That's what I'm saying. They say that's what leads to all the food allergies and the stomach problems, and the reason that we even have Pepto-Bismol is all because you're shoving meat down your face, and it takes 3 times as long to get through your stomach that it does a bear's because you don't have any business eating it. And I thought, man, they got the diagrams, and this egg thing makes a lot of sense. It's possible I should be a vegan.
Hey, that's the biggest joke on my dog ever, right? Like, I'm sitting there eating meat for a stomach that can't handle it. I'm feeding him, a bunch of dry, discarded something or other.
Yeah, brown kibbles,
He takes a bite and looks at me. I mean, it's a girl, I guess, but she looks every day. She takes a bite and looks at me, and I always think it's weird that the dog crunches with her open mouth. But it didn't occur to me that she's being obnoxious on purpose. Say, yeah, Ben, that's that same crap you gave me the last 15 years of my life. Crunch, crunch,
right?
crunch, crunch.
She tried to eat a rabbit, and you scold her. You're like, "Please eat the rabbit. It's gross." Like, how dare you? Like I just doing what I'm designed to do. I got a short stomach. And you, sir, are letting a piece of beef slowly wind its way down and rot before it gets to where it's supposed to go.
Hey, that's true. That golden girl of a dog, caught a rabbit. I mean, she can barely get up and down the stairs. And 3 weeks ago, she catches a rabbit and brings it to the door. And I thought, go ahead. But then she doesn't bother eating it. She just kind of punctures it, and it's still alive. She didn't even bite it hard enough. It's kind of wiggling around and stuff, and it hobbles away.
So let's wrap this back around. The whole reason I even brought up that story is because I'm easily taken in, right? I could watch a documentary on eating meat, and I'd be like, yeah. We should never eat plants again. So
the cow already ate the plant. I'm in.
So the worst place for me to be is Facebook, right? Like, so one time it's like, Joel Osteen, he won't open the church, and Lakewood's terrible, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, it's terrible. You should open the church. Then the next day they're like, look, it's not meant for habitation, blah, 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 blah. He's got millions, but he's making millions off the book sales. It ain't off the tithe into the church. The church building have nothing to do with it. And he's a good man. I'm like, yeah, he's pretty all right. I don't know why we get so mad at him.
So here was the premise, in case it's 2 years from now and you're listening back to the show because you got really bored. So there's big floods in Texas, right? Stevie Ray says there's flood in Texas and the thing's going down. The hurricane had gone through. And so there's a big to-do because Lakewood Church, of which Joel Osteen is a pastor, they bought out the old Houston Rockets arena. That's where they hold church, okay? Guy's got like $1 million smile. I don't know. I mean, if he was born with that, the Lord had him for televangelism. He's got a smile for him.
Had to him.
Yeah. So anyway, the people were all up in arms because there's flooding everywhere. There's like an overcrowded city center 2 blocks away. He's got this giant stadium or arena, and they don't have it. They're not inviting people in. That's one of the technicalities here. He's not like saying you can't come in, but they didn't put any signs out or say, hey, we'll take folks in.
No social media posts.
Yeah, it's like if you swim here, you can come in, but we ain't telling you can come in until you swim here. Mm-hmm. And so the discussion we had last week was basically the world has an expectation of Christians. Are they fair expectations? And like broadly, our answer was yes. People expect the church to have open doors. They expect people to have food. Like, they have a really high liability for Christians to be taking action. And we said that is a completely responsible liability that the church is supposed to have, and we should be living up to it. But we said also, like, they've picked out a dude and ignoring the, hundreds of churches or thousands of organizations and people that are otherwise doing something that aren't necessarily making the front page. It's just they've singled him out because of the amount of money, frankly, that he has personally, the amount of money that goes to the church, and the size of the operation that they otherwise seem to have.
And here's the thing: that what it all boils down to for me is that third one that's the stinger. Right? Like, the reason that most people call in the Red Cross or whatever is because they are attuned to doing this on a large scale. And if anybody is capable of serving 11,000 people every Sunday, it's Lakewood. They're set up for it already. They got the cups, they got the spoons, they got the coffee makers, they got the food, they have enough room, they have the air conditioning size for it. If there's anybody that is set up in that town to accommodate that many people on a regular basis, have the staff to handle it, have the organization already in place to get it done, and can follow all applicable laws to do it, it's them. And so, like, if there's a legitimate, what it ended up being for me is it was a blindness on their part to think that they didn't have to speak to it. Because let's say they were legit, and they couldn't, and they said, look, it's flooding in here, or we're not the best option, there are better options out there, right? You at least have to say that. If you're going to be the McDonald's, you got to be ready to take the hit for the rest of the fast food industry. And the same thing is true. If you're going to be the biggest church in town, and probably one of the biggest churches in America, you got to be ready to speak for the team. And so you can't just let it go silent, and you can't just not bring it up. And frankly, I'm surprised they didn't have, look, we can't use our building right now. It's not the safest place, and it's not the best place to be. But we have people, and we have homes, and we have boats. And if you need a place to stay, you can come stay with me.
Something.
You can come stay with
something is better than nothing.
That's right.
And it wasn't even a matter of that they're not providing, they're not proactively. It was complete silence for something that big. The organization and the media of that kind of a place, there was complete blackout silence. And sure, they're in the middle of a giant flood and a hurricane, but somehow there's other stuff, there's other people and other stuff coming out. How can that expectation that a Christian organization should be a little more open arms, even if they're saying, hey, we're in a place and this is what we're stuck with, just being able to say anything and being able to say, we want to help, we need people to help, we have the organization to help or not help, or we will. Something is better than nothing.
I think that's where it ended for me. I think a lot of people came down pretty heavy on them. I think you can have some grace into their response and say, look, there was a lot of stuff going on there. But the thing is like, you can't be so blind to not understand who you are in that town, and who you're representing in that town and what it is that you're actually doing. Right? You got to be, they have staff You know what I'm saying? It's not just like one man's in there scrubbing the toilets, giving the sermon, you know what I'm saying, and making sure the Bibles are ordered. They are staffed to handle thousands of people on a weekly basis. If there's someone in that town that's capable of handling this response correctly, it probably is you. It probably is you. You're staffed for it. You have the heart for it. And what, like I said, you don't have to put them in a building. You can be shipping them to individual church homes if you want. If there's 11,000 people going there on a Sunday, you can say that's probably at least 4,000 households. And 4,000 households, let's say half of them are flooded out. That's 2,000 households would be like, you come stay with me. We'll feed you. We'll make sure you're all right. We'll make sure everything gets straightened up. Start coming to our homes.
What do the members of that church feel like? Do they feel like their church is serving them and serving the community the best that their organization can? Whatever the leadership, but do they feel like their church is doing enough or doing something? Or
actually, I haven't seen a whole lot of.
It's one thing to open up to outsiders, right? But it's another thing to say, well, this is my church, and kind of own it and say, well, I need help, and can someone help?
Yeah.
It
was.
I don't know.
What did they say? I saw Tyler Perry gave money. Like Medea, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So it said came out basically in support of Lakewood and gave them money as part of what they're doing for the relief efforts. It would be interesting to know. I guess so. Here's where I'm at on that. Then I would say it is a firm comm failure.
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
To your point, like they've got staff. There's guys that's their job is to communicate things. I'll give you an example. I shared this in my corporate environment. I work for we do digital processes and things and like process improvement and stuff with a digital focus. And one of the things that we have like a touch point is communication. And so you guys are familiar with Planning Center, right? Like the company that runs Planning Center, they do church applications. So like being able to have digital sheet music and presentation of lyrics and stuff on the board. They also do people check-ins. They do it for like nurseries.
Scheduling for the band, scheduling for the tech crew.
Yeah. So like they just got and they have a giving platform. They got like a host of different apps and stuff. And so they sent out a notification. I'm still on their email list. They don't know that I don't use any of their products. So like they had seen some massive degradation in service. Was like a couple weeks ago, especially with their check-in platform. And the transparency of this company and talking about, they were like, here's we figured out what happened. We had tried to make some improvements and we saw some progress. However, here's some lessons we learned, things we did not do correctly in this instance, which otherwise would have helped the situation. Here's what we're doing. Like they listed, like, I know the type of equipment they bought. I know the type of database they run. I know how often they spend time on it. I know when people come in the morning to look at it Sunday, because they're like, we know this is important to you and it's important to us, and it kills us to think that we may have let you down in these weeks, that these things weren't running as fast as we can. Here's the troubleshooting items we take. Every once in a while we'll take away a feature because it tends to clog up things. We took it away trying to figure out this problem. So like they give you like a short synopsis, and then they said, if you want the details, we got them. And like it was impressive. It was the level of detail was impressive. The information they provided, and the obvious understanding of what the expectations of their customers were. And saying like, we know that this is important to you, and we know when we failed you, and we want you to know that we're going to fix it. And like it was one of the best failures, like communication of a failure that I'd seen, and I've seen that company do that multiple times. They're just very good at communicating well. And so I give that example not because you should think of people who need help or church parishioners as customers necessarily, but like you got to know who you are. You got to know the role you play in someone's lives or what the expectations are, and you have to be able to speak to that. And so, irregardless of whether they were working behind the scenes on some things, of whether their building was accessible or not, whatever that was, it is a straight up communications failure. And I think, Mike, to your point, a lack of understanding who you are. That would have been the first thing I would have thought of, right? Like as a flood comes in, I think to myself, hey man, how can we use the building? oh, we can't use the building, it's not safe, or we're not prepared, or they better go somewhere else because FEMA's over here and can log them in, or whatever the 15 reasons might be, the first thing I would say is, hey, we'd love to be able to use our place. However, there's better options for you. You should do this. First try this, then try this, and just know that we're coming in right behind you with blankets and materials and money and stuff, and like we regret that our space isn't available, so we're going to do the very best we can to make up for the fact that something we have at our disposal can't be used.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a really good opportunity. And here's the thing: I don't want to speak as if I know that wasn't exactly what they were thinking.
No, and they could have been very well.
Maybe totally their intention, but definitely a missed opportunity. It was definitely a communications failure. If every benefit of the doubt is given for an organization that big, that many staff, that many people, that much money going through, you got to do better than that. Like that would have been that was just as much a corporate failure. We would have had the same problem in an organization my size, like Fortune 100 company. It'd be the same thing. There's an expectation that you react to certain things in certain ways. And so if I'm going to be fair, I know that's a hard fail. Yeah. Everything else, like I would agree. I think there's grace there. I think they overstated, like even the pictures where they're like, hey, the building's flooded. It wasn't there. Some of them weren't actually their building. It was like a few blocks away, or it was the parking garage. There was like
the parking garage.
And you're like, I
hate it when my church parking garage floods.
I'm not overly confident at this response. Here's the thing. They didn't own it. They didn't own it till like 4 days later. They kind of chip-shotted some responses and some reactions without addressing the problem. Like, here's the thing: this is true from a corporate communication standpoint, and frankly, even personally, if you don't tell people what's going on, they just think you suck. Right? They don't know the difference. They don't know what's going on.
People will just fill in the blanks.
Correct.
Imagination starts to run wild, and the longer the imagination is allowed to run without just having some sort of a grounding.
Yep.
The more it looks and sounds like what's on Facebook and
that's right,
and the news, and it's just a junk mess.
Yeah, internet trolls get to fill in details. So you provide details. That's why no one's ever going to come at planning centers. Freaking guys are ready for it. They're like, we give you every detail. You know everything we're doing. And you can criticize the detail if you want to, but you don't get to control the facts. And so, again, it was still a comp failure. They let it kind of punch around for a few days. And so, like, if there's a lesson, there's probably like a church lesson here. But I would say there's also a personal lesson. And this was one thing, like that quote, if you don't tell people what's going on, they just think you suck. I interviewed a guy who ran one of our call centers, and he was moving back to the East Coast. And, like, if you run a call center and people like you, that's a tough job to leave because that's a lot of people. There's a lot of people in call centers. And so he was having a hard time because he loved everybody there and didn't want to go. And he said, I'm really having a hard time. But the truth is that, like, I got to talk to people about it. I have to tell them. I have to help them understand my situation because otherwise, there are consequences to being in a rough spot, and if you don't tell people what's going on, they just think that you suck. They think you're just short-tempered with them, or they think like that you're just ignoring phone calls, or whatever it is that's the output of going through something. He said context will help people understand you because they've been there. Like, they've had something that relates to that, right? Mm-hmm. And so so anyway, it's that same thing. They let that punt around just a little bit. And I hope it's just something that they learn from. And it reinforces, like, the real power that a church like that has with their size, with their resources. And people look and say, we have an expectation of what Jesus people do in this situation. Are you doing it? And we should, and I think what we got right last week was, yeah, we should be able to live up to that. It's a high liability to be a Christian, and it's ours to meet.
Yeah.
So.
I'm not going to say I'm going to be sad to see the whole situation leave the social media, because I mean the internet's vicious. They're just vicious people. They just come out of the woodwork, and like, and it really is. It's a ping pong match, It's just like listening to it's like reading Mere Christianity or reading anything by that guy. Who is it?
C.S. Lewis.
Yeah, C.S. Lewis, where he does counterpoint with himself. You know what I'm saying? He'll like give a point, and he'll be like, yeah, right on, and then he'll give his own counterpoint against it. I'm like, well, that's right on. And then he'll counterpoint right against it. And he's just sitting there arguing with himself, giving, well, if you think that, dig on this. And so I had to stop reading him because I just get so confused.
It's like Job and Romans.
Yes.
Both of them are like, yeah, you know what? I agree with that crap. I wasn't supposed to agree with that, was I?
Yeah,
by
exactly.
No means. Dang it.
Yeah. Eliphaz got to be right about this. You've done something wrong, Joe. Anyway. Yeah, I think you want to take something away personally. This thing, look, have some grace for God's people, right? It's not like they waited for the flood opportunity and then Osteen go in there and stuffing all the gold in the temple in his pockets and running out. You know what I'm saying? So, like,
although the Babylon Bee, which is a Christian satire site, did an article that said like once the streets flooded in Houston, that Joel Osteen was out there in a yacht. handing out copies of his books to people swimming around and going, "Your best life is now." And so that was funny. And so Snopes.com, someone submits it and says, "Is Joel Osteen really doing this?" So Snopes has, I mean, Snopes is a debatable resource anyway, but like they went ahead and checked it and debunked that it was happening. But like at least for a very small portion of the people in the earth, they thought, yeah, that's believable.
Like this could be the deal.
The Lord you're coming into time of favor. Swim on.
That's the problem with that stuff is we just don't know what really happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I've not engaged like in all the debates. And I was like, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know the workings of a mega church. I mean, that's like if they go into your corporate world tomorrow and say, we need 20,000 donuts by noon. What's wrong with you? You have the space. You're like, we're not wired for 20. That's not what we do. You know, we're wired to handle people for an hour at a time and shove them out and get a new 100. You know, we don't have beds. We don't have a hospitality staff. We have a ministry staff. Those are different worlds, you know.
I don't know. That sounds lame, Dan.
Well, I'm just saying they're just not wired. I'm not saying they're right or wrong. I'm just saying that's not what they do. And which could be a good argument against the corporate church, you know, monster church. And anyway, you know, they're probably more worried about, crap, the budget's going to fail. We have a $7 million building payment. You know, so I don't even know the figures.
I think they paid for that building. I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure they own that.
Maybe so, yeah. But their staff, you know, half their staff's buried too. I mean,
whatever. You can tweet from a house.
This machine is not finally oiled right now because half their people are underwater. I mean, you know, there's
once
so
again,
much
I mean,
we don't know.
Dan, don't you think
Communication is the biggest failure of the whole thing because
that's
even
it.
though they're a mega church with mega staff, that just means that's how many people that they need to operate that can't operate, but there's still an expectation. So if there was just the communication, if someone just tweeted out or did a Facebook with their official church thing and, you know, hey, we're underwater.
Right. Doing the best they can.
It's not like
something again.
Yeah, you don't have 11,000 servants ready to roll. You've got, you know, 700 staff ready to tell the 11,000 people what to do. Is kind of how they're probably wired. And so they're all looking at each other like, I don't know. And the staff are going, well, I'm just trying to save my baby even in the bath. You know, she's washing downstream. I mean, you know, it's just a big mess. It's a disaster for everybody. And, you know.
Yeah. So
I'm not defending them. I'm just saying I just don't know.
No,
There's just stuff I don't know. So I can't criticize them. I can criticize them for lots of stuff.
Right.
I just don't know. But the communication, that would have solved a lot of stuff.
It solved everything. We
Yeah.
wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Exactly.
It would have came and went, and it would have left, and we'd have said, man, the church gave it its best shot, but like, what are you going to do? They're underwater, or the electricity's out, or blah, 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 blah. We'd already known and fill in the blah, blah, blahs, and we would have nothing to talk
We're
about.
thinking they're sitting around there eating Funyuns going, man, this is awesome. Look at this dry space. You know,
This is what a natural disaster looks and sounds like in a huge area, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the deal. I personally don't have that liability to explain to people when I'm in the midst of a natural disaster why I'm not opening my home, right? But the position
You don't
that they're
this
in,
time. Now you know for next time.
I
Right,
guess-
Ben?
Yeah. Ben Foust has not opened his home yet.
next Facebook post is ready.
I heard Ben last flood was handing out books of someone else's saying this is the time.
In a canoe.
But right, like it comes. That's the thing is like that's why they're under derision, and the Third Baptist Church of Houston isn't getting the same question.
Yeah,
it's like you bought the big building, you got the guy that lives well. Like people are already harsh at whatever that outcome is.
Yeah, they already don't like him.
That's correct. And so like, and unfortunately, like I said, being a Christian in times of trial, when people actually look at Christianity and want it to be true, it has a high liability here. And so like, if you're going to own the big dome, you got to have you have to do better with that, at least on the comm side. I'm with Mike, and I think in agreement with where Dan's going too. Like, without knowing anything else, I think there's grace to be had on whatever the actual output of what they're doing is.
Yeah, I mean, there's a flood happening.
Yeah, right. But on the communication side, like I'm confident that that's just a flat out fail.
Yeah.
All right. Reprieve.
You know, if Noah was there, you think he would have sent something out or just left the doors open going, nope, two, keep bringing them.
Yep.
Twos.
Wait, we already got a couple of you. You're out. First two that swim to the door in.
That's right.
Someone get those guys books. Yeah.
Sir, that's a giraffe costume. You can't do that. Let those rock people in. They're cool.
They were a big help.
Can you drown a rock man? I guess you can.
Don't fall over, Stan. You'll never come back up.
Oh man, I can't even approach that again, even at a comedy. I don't think there's rarely a movie that I've seen once that I wouldn't keep up. I wouldn't casually watch again, either because I liked it or I was reminded that it was so bad that I would watch it again just for that level. But that freaking Noah movie, I just can't.
It's
I can't even have it cross my screen.
Oh yes, I know which Noah movie now. I flipped by it on the TV, and I wondered if there was some artistic liberties. I didn't realize Noah had a small army.
You're lucky they didn't change Noah's name to Stan or something. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how much artistic liabilities they took. They just did what they wanted.
Well, so it has the rock people roots have roots in Kabbalah. So like Madonna type Kabbalah.
Does Noah have roots in Kabbalah?
Yeah, he's represented there. I mean, similar to how. There are different. Think of it as like Epic of Gilgamesh compared to biblical account of flooding. Both agree that there's a flood, and then there's points where things start to wildly verge off course.
I'm sorry. Did you reference Epic of Gilgamesh?
Yeah,
I have no idea what that means, Ben.
We were talking about this last week after the show.
No, yeah, no.
What are you doing?
What's the cameras rolling for that?
What's the gist of it?
So here's the thing is a lot of people will say that the Epic of Gilgamesh otherwise tells the story of a worldwide flood.
Oh, yeah.
And so the accusation points to Christianity and says you stole that from the Epic of Gilgamesh. Noah's story comes from the Gilgamesh epic. Now here's the thing. Both of them agree that there was a worldwide flood, and that's what you actually don't believe. So it's kind of a non-story. Right, because the dating is suspicious, and what people here. What I would say is, hey, both of these look and say there was a worldwide flood. Let's start there. Every major religion and the oldest documentation you can find that you think Christianity copied all agree worldwide flood, and you're like, no flood. So I mean, who's the idiot here?
Yeah.
So let's reverse the accusation here. Let's talk about where actually everything else agrees, and you're upset, and then we can get to your accusation that Christianity stole the discussion from oral tradition folks who actually just didn't write it down soon enough to your liking. Right, so that's where it comes from. It's just an old story that otherwise some of the physical evidence of the documentation of the story predates physical evidence of Christian documentation of the story.
Yeah, I know.
But the Jews were old tradition.
I know. I thought Phil might not have known. That's why I asked.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that.
You look confused.
Less embarrassing that way.
Come on, Phil. Read your Gilgamesh. God, what do you do with your free time?
My Little Ponies, not Gilgamesh. We're going to start switching that up at the house.
That's it. You know what? This pony stuff ends now.
All right, Mike. So before the show started. You had speaking of epics. This one seems like a big question. So hit me up with it.
Here's the thing: is I don't even know how to frame it correctly. But I was just throwing a bunch of thoughts out there and trying to get a direction on my thought process, right? But I was thinking about this earlier today. Is I work and I'm around quite a bit of people that consider themselves Christians, right? But Jesus doesn't really define that. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't say Christians are and then hands it out, right? Nor does he really define. Anytime that he's talking to people, even look at Matthew 5 Sermon on the Mount stuff. The example that I was mulling through today was the types of soils of where the seeds land, and when he explains where the seed lands, he doesn't say a Christian will be choked up by the thorns, and then they will no longer be a Christian, right? He doesn't take the group that are following him and define them as something, He just basically talks to everybody in a you fashion as the things that he's saying.
Right. I mean the parable of the seeds or the sower, he actually defines his reaction to the kingdom, right?
Correct.
So it isn't even talking about you in, you out. It describes the otherwise interactions he's had up to this point and beyond of how people are reacting to the kingdom itself.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So in Christian circles, we'll usually say Christ follower or a kingdom person or a follower of Jesus or something like that, And I thought, Jesus never really said though. They're all. We have to organize it some way. Like I'm not saying that's good or bad or indifferent, right? But like Jesus didn't really point that out. And the only reason that comes into my head is because all these people that I know that claim to be Christians, I'm like, I mean, I'm certain that you're not. I'm certain that you're not, right? Because there's no action, there's no fruit, there's no follow through, there's no following of Jesus anywhere in this, right? You're just a Christian by whatever definition you feel a Christian is, right? And so, what I was trying to figure out is, boy, I can't even now. I don't even know if I can point my question to a certain thing, right? But like, if you were going to define what Jesus is, how Jesus is addressing people when Jesus is talking. Let's just do the Gospels, right? Like when Jesus is talking, how is he defining the people that follow him? What do those people do? What do those people look like? Are the classifications that we're calling them, are they actually accurate descriptions? And somehow, how has that gotten to be whatever he intended it to be, to whatever a Christian is now considered to be?
I feel like we pay Dan for these types of answers.
I think I don't know about that question actually, because when we're talking about those kinds of things, usually when I think of Christians, there's kind of not necessarily degrees of folks, but we're talking. I mean, the goal is to get people to love and accept Christ as their personal Savior, right?
Right.
Now, the idea is once you plant that particular seed, they want to follow Christ and do God's work and that kind of stuff, right? So there's the making the initial jump, and then there's the follow through. But a lot of folks kind of, I mean, just over the course of a lifetime, go in and out of following Jesus, walking the walk. Life happens, other things happen, priorities shift. But there's still that consideration of, well, I call myself a Christian whether I'm acting like it today or not, because I accepted Christ at one point. And I think that's kind of the broad stroke, typically, at least in the West, is when you say you're a Christian, well, you hit that point in your life, you hit that mark at one point. Are you following? Are you following through? Are you doing anything to bear fruit? That's kind of...
Well, see, and that's actually where that question comes up is like, because I was thinking about the dudes with the thorns, right, where they get put in the thorny soil, the thorns rise up and choke the whole thing out. Mm-hmm. And like the general thought process of most people I know is like, hey, listen, if those thorns got rid of you, you didn't have it in the first place. You were not following Christ in the first place. Yeah. Otherwise, the thorns wouldn't have taken you out.
So that's not true. I wouldn't agree with that. I mean,
okay, so that's exactly what I'm talking about. So what is it then?
See, well, where I kind of strayed from you was way off in the beginning, though, when you were framing this, is Jesus actually talks a lot about becoming a follower. I mean, that's what the whole Sermon on the Mount's about. That's what the kingdom is. You can join me or not. I mean, he wasn't begging him. He wasn't giving him a sales pitch. He was saying, this is what the kingdom looks like. Follow me. I mean, all his disciples follow me, follow me, follow me. It's all about following. And I think where we went wrong is when we started going toward Jesus as my personal Savior. Is I don't see a lot of that in Scripture. He came to be the Savior, but somewhere along the line we transitioned it a generation ago or two into being, let's hold crusades and save people, and then we leave, and they never became followers. I mean, not the masses, but some didn't.
Sure.
And then we had to say, well, you're still okay because, well, 10 years ago you said yes, when you waved at the concert, and it's like, that's not in the Bible anywhere. That's completely made up and fabricated. It's just not true. If you're not a follower, you're not following. And we're called to follow. And be obedience and so sometimes we're using the same vocabulary, but saying completely different things in the church, the modern church, because we've just kind of screwed it up so much, I think.
So I think then the logical question then, Dan, I suppose, is that so the disciples don't actually meet that criteria for a while. Right, they're following Jesus, but not actually following Jesus. Like the way that they think of their enemies is not necessarily positive, right? Like they're not.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a growing process. You're following as much as you get. But the whole thing is you keep taking another step. You continue to follow. You don't follow, one block and then stop and say, that's all I really needed for my life. I got my salvation thing down. It's like you're continually learning and growing. I'm a different person than I was 5 years ago, for sure. But that doesn't mean 5 years ago I wasn't a follower. You know, I just follow better, I think. You know, I do things differently. I hope that'll never change. I mean, does that kind of answer what you're saying? I mean,
yes. So like, and I think that's where the gray area seems to be, right? Is like what we were saying is the following is the inertia, not necessarily the success, right? Because like you're not. You're not Jesus. I think everyone's aware of that. That's not really the problem. But like, what makes that different? The guy who fails while he keeps walking how is that different from the guy who, I mean, just sat down? He just sat down and said, "Okay, I've done the thing. I've said the prayer, whatever it was," and then said, "Okay, I think I'm good. I'm just going to kind of do what I want to do." That's a different circumstance. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, definitely. Maybe my mind kind of shifted to a conversation my wife and I had earlier, and I can't even remember what caused this. Like, we were talking about possibilities of our children, making mistakes in life, and they're kind of past some of this stuff now. At least one of them is that what if one of our children were to get pregnant before marriage? Well, we would have known they made a mistake. They were godly people who loved Jesus who made a mistake.
Right.
They did something that even they wish they hadn't done, but they did, which is completely different than "up yours, God, I do as I please with my body." That's not a follower.
Sure.
But I know people who would call themselves Christians, but will do whatever the heck they want with their body. You're not following. You're not a Christian. You can't define Christian by your terms; it's by His terms, or the whole debate over just the sexual revolution in churches, and churches that want to be more accepting, so to speak, and we just love everybody, and we're supposed to of course we're called to love everybody, but at some point you make them followers, and some of the things they're doing isn't following. So we want to put them in a church and say they're great and give them a name tag that says Jesus on it when they're not Jesus people. They're spiritual people, and hopefully they're headed toward Jesus, but they're not Jesus people. So don't call them Jesus people. It's okay to not be a Jesus person. I mean, it's not going to end well, but I don't define that. That's not my rules. That's His.
I think we as people need to kind of define that gray area more, right? There's kind of the question of followership and the acceptance of Christ, but then part of that gray area, like the story of footsteps, right? You walk along the beach, you see one set of footsteps, and Jesus says He's with you, and then you have the hardest times of your life. You look back and say, "Jesus, where were you?" I thought, for someone who falls down like that, they're the ones that are most likely to break and have just a shift in their followership.
Yeah.
Are they any less any less Christian, any less Christ following, any less any of that, just because I mean, we're all human, right? We all are going to have those failings and have those. We're going to lose strength at some point to some degree. And does that shift where we're at in that gray scale and how we would regard each other and others?
Yeah, so I suppose that orients the conversation in the right direction, right? And so like normally, this is what makes these conversations tough. And like some of these we talked about when Robbie and Aaron were in here a couple weeks ago when they were talking about people who are come to their drug treatment program or their addiction treatment program, right? And they're broken when they walked in, right? And they're looking to change something different. And then you turn around and look at like the bringing Christ to say Ben's workplace or my workplace, and we are playing the long game. We're playing the year game. You know what I'm saying? Like people who are broken that are looking for Christ will definitely find Him, and no one points them to that better than Robbie and Aaron, right? But I'm talking to like most of our general workplaces are set up where they don't even need God, really. You know what I'm saying? Like they make their own money, they handle their own affairs. They actually cannot see the need that you're saying exists. Even if you tell them of the need that exists, they're having a hard time buying it, right? And so like that mission area is much, much, much different than walking in on the broken who are looking to do something different with their life and know the God that created them, opposed to the guy that's like, I've gotten along for 40 years without any of the stuff that you're talking about right now. And so you cope with this urgency or this thing that like where you have to rely on a God because you're weak and apparently misguided that you can't own. The guy goes, I got this covered. I don't see how I need this at all. Plus, actually, I'm pretty sure I'm Christian anyway because I went to church and I believe that God exists.
Yeah, so I think at its core, Mike, this is not going to satisfy all critiques here.
Sure.
But like at its core is recognizing the thing you're describing is the barriers are recognizing who God is and who you are. Right? It's a humble stance that says I need God. Right? If your position is I'm saved, I'm now going to do whatever I want, that's not a position of humility that acknowledges who God is. That's you saying God can provide me something, I got it from him at a good deal, and then now I'm going to do whatever I want.
Sure.
Right? So it's like ignore all the hey, here's the actions I'm still taking, here's the here's what I want to do with my life. I gave to charity X number of times. Forget all the output and just say, do I appropriately recognize who God is and who I am? And any stance that says, thank you, God, for the salvation, I will do as I please, does not properly acknowledge who God is, which means, which I would say, that does not make you a follower of Jesus, a humble servant of the living God. Right? Because you are simply not positioned. You aren't orienting yourself correctly.
Which is going to be the eternal relationship that you're going to have to get on board with.
Yes, right. That's the case, right? And so in humility to God, understanding who he is rightly and who you are, is there room to recognize that at your core you still will pursue sin. You often will diverge into pursuing something that is for your own benefit, and then otherwise repent from. Because that is your nature and frankly the gist of being surrounded by the level of temptation that in a fallen world. Yes, I think that's all true. But that does not that's not a consistent posturing that says I do not recognize who God is and who I am. Right?
Yeah.
So at its core then, but once I recognize if I'm in that position and I say I recognize who God is, then I start to take in, digest things like the Sermon on the Mount and say, look, Jesus says this is what it is like. If you recognize who I am, if we agree that I am God and you are not, and you are otherwise in fealty to me, and I know what is best for you and how the kingdom should work, and this is how the kingdom should work, then your right reaction is to do it. Right, is to submit to that, is to pursue those types of things. One, because you're a fool not to. If Jesus is the king and he knows what's best and he says this is what's best and you're like, I'm kind of do what I want. I would argue that you're not understanding the relationship again. And that's a fool's parade anyway. But second of all, it rightly starts to frame is like that's why following Jesus requires or is at least the fruit of doing so. You start to look and live like Jesus because that's what he pointed you to do. And that is the nature of your relationship. And it would be unwise counsel to pursue that differently.
And probably where we get in trouble is trying to define who's in and who's out.
Oh, sure.
And that's where we get like that's none of my business. I'm not smart enough. I just want everybody in. That's kind of how I've always approached it. It's like, of course you made mistakes. We're all a bunch of idiots and we're all fools, and we all have those weeds around us or the rocks or whatever. We get choked out by things and then we clear out the weeds and we get back. It's that's our struggle. I think, and I think in part of that's the caution Jesus has given us in that parable. Is say, hey, watch out. And that's kind of a side note of that whole parable is watch out for those weeds. You have a chance to be choked out. You have a chance to have a hard path time in your life where you're just like not listening to anything. And
so here's the thing: is like I think on its core, right? Like that certainly can be agreed to. What if I look at the situation Mike is representing, though? Let's take a guy who's is 25, 27, feel like he grew up in the church, he's been baptized, says I've got the thing out now. I'm kind of got to do whatever I want. He doesn't come back to that scripture, Dan. It's not like he reads that and recognizes himself in it. And so when I say, hey, it's not my job to call balls and strikes, which I'm agreeing, right? Like I am in no position to say who's in, who's out.
Right.
The question, though, is I see this man and he says, oh, yeah, I'm a follower of Jesus. I'm like, well, he's mistaken and he'll be hot in it.
Yeah. No, you're not.
I mean, here's the thing. That's maybe the hard call, right? Because like here, I think sometimes we for the exact same reason that you're talking about. It's not my job to call balls and strikes on where people are at with God. But the truth of the matter is, I love you, and you don't look like you following Christ at all. I have got to say something to you. For heaven's sakes, I can't leave you to just do that. And like we do such a placate thing. We're like, well, you know, we don't want to get up on their business or make people feel bad or yell at them or blah, blah, make them, you know. But hey, here's the thing. Like, if I can look at your entire life and say, look, I hear you saying that you believe that Jesus Christ died for your sins and give you life brand new, right? But, like, if you really believe that, there is no possible. It makes it really hard to know when you got to start pulling triggers, because I think most of the time we land on the opposite side of not saying anything and being like, well, I'll just pray on that. I'll just keep.
So here's the thing: is like I would actually call the discussion itself is probably your right basis point, because you come up and say something like that to me and says, "Hey, follower of Jesus, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." I say, "Well, there's some things, right? You've noticed some things that I do say, whatever, and you bring those up to me as a follower of Jesus. Although human reaction might be to say, piss off, I'm upset with you. Like at its core, I'm in. Okay, I want to hear it. So that's why the Bible changes me, right? And if I say, hey, I don't want to hear it, you can't tell me what to do. Okay, well, then that's not right understanding of who God is and who you are.
That's true. So like just merely by bringing it up, look at the disciples' reaction, even when they're doing Last Supper. Right? Like Jesus says, hey, man, the guy that's going to betray me, he's in this room. And the whole lot of them, minus the old J.I., is going, is it me?
It could be me.
Yeah.
Is it me that's going to do this thing? You know what I'm saying? Like, these are guys that understand their plight, and they're like, I hope it's not me.
This is bad.
That's right. That's the follower of Jesus reaction to when someone says, hey, man, you are a follower of Jesus. These are the things that you're doing. And from where I'm sitting, it looks like you and Jesus ain't having that good of a conversation. And the guy that's following Jesus that has got lost in his way a little bit and maybe caught up in the thorn goes, dang it. Yeah, that is me. And yes, I'm not in a good shape. I'm glad you noticed that.
Yeah.
And I got to get right back on this thing. I appreciate you bringing it up. And pride goes, how dare you? How dare you look into my curtains and tell me of my deals? And then they Judas Iscariot and run for the hills. And
listening
like,
to that pride though is part of the that you're going to think that, and then you're going to go, shh. Continue, brother.
Right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm taking in what you're
3
saying.
days later.
Yeah.
I'm saying I'm not going to debate, the title they use for themselves. You call yourself whatever you want, but we'll have the conversation over. Okay, you're saying you're a follower of Jesus. He's going that way. You're going the other way. Maybe we gotta, one of you needs to turn around, and it's not him. So
that's a really weird conversation, and actually, I mean, I'm more apt to have it than probably most. You know what I'm saying? About just sticking your nose right up in somebody's grill and saying, here's the thing, right?
Yes, you do. I agree with that statement.
But here's the thing. It's only because I would hate it if someone did not do that for me. You know what I'm saying? Wait till I come to you. Hey, Ben, I feel like my life's a little bit off. And he's like, well, I'm glad you asked, because the past 6 months, you've been acting like a rock creature from the Noah movie and acting like a real doofus. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you let this go on 6 months, how dare you? How dare you not tell me? If you and I, you know that I agreed to follow Jesus Christ, and you know I said this is what I wanted to do with my life, and I go off the rails for 6 months, and I don't hear from you till I bring it up, that's crap. That's real crap. You got to do better than that.
Knowing who it's okay to put your nose into like that is...
See, I have a list that's just everybody. I say it's cool for everybody.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because it seems to me, it's not, if I don't love somebody, I won't do it. If I love you, I will do that for you. Right? Because I would want someone to do it for me. Yeah. Now, granted, there's some tact to it, which, granted, I don't have. But, I mean, most people do. You know what I'm saying? You can put a couple thoughts together, look at the situation you're walking into, and maybe not show up with a hammer. But, you have to have that conversation either way. Either way, I think that you owe to somebody you love, I think you owe them that conversation.
Yeah, and I think that's the broad point, right? It's like, like you have to be the right person. I think that's kind of what Phil's getting at, for people to actually hear that from you.
Sure.
But here's the thing. That's our goal, is to be the right person. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't hide out hut style from the world and be like, I want to be the right person. I just need to make a phone some free time, right? That's why you have coffee. It's why you make friends. It's why you like serve and love other people, so that when you talk, they listen, and then you become the right person. So we're people folk.
That's true. And if you want to look that on the opposite end for the guy that wants to do the talking, look, if you ain't the right person for anybody, you're not doing this right? You cannot possibly be the wrong person for everyone in the world. Yeah. You've got to do better than that.
Yeah. Yeah, that means, because if you're that wrong of a person, that means some other guy, like a group of people who love Jesus, still ain't willing to approach you.
That's exactly right.
Like, I'd like to help that guy, but he's just a weasel. All right. Okay.
I think we settled that one.
Okay, good.
All right.
Oops.
Oh boy.
America's fastest growing game show. Secular or Solomon?
And you've stumbled upon America's fastest growing internet game show, Secular versus Solomon.
I'll be Solomon in this one, Ben.
No, that's not a role-playing game, Mike.
Dang it.
Can we have Gilgamesh in this one?
Yeah,
Just tonight.
that's question 3. So here's the premise of the game. If you're new to the world, I mean, otherwise you had to have heard about it. I'm going to give you a proverb, a bit of wisdom, and your job is to tell me whether it is a biblical bit of wisdom or whether it's of the world. So Bible wisdom, you're going to call Solomon. Something that comes from non-Bible sources, otherwise worldly stuff, paganism, I like to say, is going to be secular. And then I need a country of origin because we need to know where this nefariousness is coming from and root it out. All right, so that's the goal. I will give you the bit of wisdom. You tell me secular, Solomon, country of origin. Mike will assign the points, and we will go round robin. I will do my best to keep track of whose turn it is. If not, you're just going to have to live with that. It's late, boys, and I'm the host, and I do what I want. Here we go. Question number 1, starting with Dan Hudson. Secular or Solomon, a country can be judged by the quality of its proverbs. A country can be judged by the quality of its proverbs, secular or Solomon.
Well, I'm going to go secular on that. And trying to think of where that might come from. Country can be judged by that. That's got to be... okay, I'm thinking too hard about this.
Maybe, maybe, Dan. You have literally no skin in this game.
I've not read this particular nation's proverbs, so okay, I'm gonna go. It's secular, and we're gonna go Afghanistan. It's just Middle East feel to it. I don't know.
It's got a vibe. Dan says it's got a vibe. Country can be judged by the quality of its proverbs. Phil.
Yeah, I'm gonna go secular too. Thinking further east though. Maybe India?
India. Fills in with India. Mike.
Secular Russia.
Secular Russia. Here we go. A country can be judged by the quality of its proverbs. It is indeed secular Germany. Germany.
Does anybody get a point?
You're the point man. I signed you the point man.
No points for anybody except for me. I made a valiant attempt. None for Phil. None for Dan.
I put more
Boova's
heart
negative
into
one
it.
in the
Mother
hole.
Russia proverbs make you.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, if Boova were here, he would have got it wrong. Deduct 10.
Yeah.
Deduct 10 points.
Negative 10 for Boova.
Secular or Solomon, a house without a dog or a cat is the house of a scoundrel. A house without a dog or a cat is the house of a scoundrel. Phil, do you have a dog or a cat?
I have a dog.
Okay. All right. Secular or Solomon.
Secular, it sounds like. Dog or a cat. Sweden.
Phil's in with Sweden. Mike.
I'm going to go secular and Colombia.
Secular Colombia. Dan.
Yeah, I'm going secular, and it's got to be Hurricane Harvey.
It's not a country, Dan.
But it was raining cats and dogs.
This requires a country.
Ba-dum-tsh.
Phil, you laugh at stuff like that, and that's what keeps it
You
coming.
encourage me.
I'm the drummer. I had to do the rim shot.
We've been working on a stone cold silence on them jokes for 5 years now, and here you come laughing it up.
We've lost every benefit.
Okay, in that case, I'm going to go with Japan, and I will not say why.
Dan, it does not specify whether the dog is on, or cat is on the stove or not, so Dan goes with the Far East. A house without a dog or a cat is the house of a scoundrel. Secular Portugal.
Portugal. That's no point.
Dan, were you working on that joke like all day? Because that was. I don't want to say it's good.
You know what, Phil? I'm going to deduct some points from you. -5 to Phil.
Hey,
I kept talking. That was the problem.
here's the Phil has a nice warm face, and so that was actually more insulting than how it came across, because it says, I don't think you thought of that off the cuff, Dan. He had to have fed you the Proverbs editor.
Quietly inside, I'm thinking, I got to remember that.
It's almost too good, he says.
It's almost Phil quality.
The nation of Hurricane Harvey.
Secular or Solomon, love not sleep, lest you come to poverty. Open your eyes, and you will have plenty of bread. Love not sleep, lest you come to poverty. Open your eyes, and you will have plenty of bread. Secular or Solomon?
Boy, Ben, that really just that strains Solomon. I'm going Solomon.
Solomon, Dan.
That is definitely an Italian secular proverb.
Hey, man, they awake all night in Italy.
They like the bread.
They don't like to sleep, and they love the bread. Probably those two things are related. Phil, you need to hear it
It's a
again.
strong argument, but the wording sounds so biblical-ish. I'm going to go with biblical.
It's not an option, Phil.
It's
Solomon.
okay.
Solomon-ish is probably what I meant to say.
You only get one warning. All right, one biblical mulligan, Phil.
I'll take it.
It's a -3.
Yeah, the mulligan's not free. It's a false name.
Me and Boover are fighting for the bottom.
Boo will win that. Love not sleep, lest you come to poverty, semicolon. Open your eyes, and you will have plenty of bread. It is indeed Solomon, Proverbs 20.
+1 for Mike.
Proverbs 20:13.
Dan still got the straight goose eggs. Boo was 30 in the hole.
I just wanted to use my Italian line.
Hey.
What? What?
I'm sorry, I didn't have the hands for that. I meant, hey.
It sounded like you were doing the Fonz.
Isn't the Fonz Italian?
I didn't
Fonzarelli.
brush my hair up.
I
enough
suppose
for
it
that,
is
did I?
Italian. Well, you know what?
he
I'm going to lose a point. Shame on me. -5 for Mike.
All right, speaking of which, secular or Solomon, a bribe is like a magic stone in the eyes of one who gives it. Wherever he turns, he prospers. A bribe is like a magic stone in the eyes of the one who gives it. Wherever he turns, he prospers. Dan Hudson.
Well, at first I thought you said bride,
Ooh.
and I was just trying to figure that out, but it went all biblical. I'm going to go Solomon now.
Dan's in for Solomon.
We are the magic stone of Christ.
Stony brides. Are we talking about Noah's Ark
Precious.
again?
That's true. We're back to Kabbalah.
-2, Phil. Keep it up.
I'm going with Solomon on this one, too.
Phil's in for Solomon. Mike.
I'm going to go secular and China.
Secular China. Magic stone does sound Chinese.
Sure does.
A bribe is like a magic stone in the eyes of the one who gives it. Wherever he turns, he prospers. It is indeed Solomon, Proverbs 17:8.
Oh, man.
Hey, man,
I don't remember no proverb about metal magic stone.
here's the deal. That means
Now you will.
in Solomon's time, someone was hawking magic stones.
Yeah, it does.
Like, because this had to make sense to them, right? So he's
Must be
like,
those
yeah.
emotion ones. What do you call those?
That was the pet rock.
No.
That's just what I was thinking. They still sell
The
them
ring,
these
like a
days,
mood
right?
ring.
Your mood wing.
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. Look at the mood ring stone on that guy.
I can see you're angry.
I never felt that way.
All right, secular or Solomon. Whoever is slack in his work is a brother to him who destroys. Whoever is slack in his work is a brother to him who destroys. Secular or Solomon. Phil.
Secular. New York in the 30s?
Phil.
I can't take away enough points, Ben. He's already in the hole.
He's already lost his mulligan. That is not a country.
U.S.
Okay, accepted. United States. Mike.
Secular Russia.
Secular. They do not put up with the slacking comrade in Russia. Dan.
Solomon's all over the sluggard and the sluggard.
Dan said even you say slacking or sluggard, he's got Solomon on it. Whoever wears slacks to work is a brother to him. Whoever is slack in his work is a brother to him who destroys. It is indeed Solomon. Proverbs 18.
Dang.
Ooh.
Proverbs 18.
10. Dan's really starting to pull ahead here. We're going to move a miss 20 on that one.
Man, Boo was having a rough go.
Yeah, here's the thing. I don't even know why he comes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to fail him at the secular Solomon regardless of whether he's here or not to defend himself.
All right, here we go. Secular or Solomon. One cannot shoe a running horse. One cannot shoe a running horse. Mike.
Secular, and that is Roman, Italy. Same. I'm not good with countries, Ben.
All right. It didn't say anything about a horse eating bread.
Yeah.
Dan says you wrong. Dan, one cannot shoe a running horse.
Yeah, that's secular, and I'm trying to think of what nation gave birth to Kentucky.
Kentucky, son.
They got
Wait a minute.
the
What's the
horses.
father? How do you do that biblically?
Those horses all came up
Well,
from
you
Mexico.
You see,
it's
when,
Mexican.
When two European countries love one another.
It's Bar, Kentucky.
So it was Mexico, Dan?
Mexico.
Here's the deal. If anybody could shoe a running horse, I feel like a Mexican could do it. You seen those guys handle the horses at the track?
That ain't no doubt.
They're fantastic. Anyway, Phil.
Spanish, I think. Secular. Spain.
Phil's in with secular Spain. Here we go. One cannot shoe a running horse. It is indeed secular in the Netherlands. The Netherlands.
I don't think of them with wisdom.
I don't know if I think of them with horses.
Way to go, fellas.
Yeah.
You know, we could mute the mics. Just a quick heads up, heads up, boys, I'm going to say something offensive.
Next one. The Netherlands have neither horses nor wisdom.
Yeah.
Secular or
Goes my
Solomon.
job.
Here we go. Secular Solomon. Gracious words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the body. Because I always think of honey as beneficial to my health. Gracious words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the body. Secular Solomon. Phil.
Solomon.
Phil's in for Solomon. Mike.
I'm also in for Solomon, Ben.
Solomon. Dan.
Yeah, Solomon, definitely. Definitely Solomon.
We're running the trifecta here with the top 2 box. Gracious words are like honeycomb. Sweetness to the soul and health to the body is indeed Proverbs 16.
Thankfulness. Always a good one.
Honeycomb was a food group in Solomon's day.
I had a honeycomb for a long time.
Just like milk.
Yeah.
And honey.
Milk and honey. He said those
Different food groups?
are the, they also did manna, so bread. 3 food groups of the Lord. Milk, honey, and manna.
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's the vegetarians, Ben. They say we can't have any of those.
No, that's true.
I got Ben to buy in on the idea, so I knew I was in.
Phil's in. Here's the deal. He showed me a magic stone.
I'll go where you're going, sir.
Here we go. Secular or Solomon, a brother offended is more unyielding than a strong city, and quarreling is like the bars of a castle. A brother offended is more unyielding than a strong city, and quarreling is like the bars of a castle. Secular or Solomon, Mike?
Secular, I get. No, that's all wrong, Ben. Solomon.
Solomon. Okay. He had a portico. I'm not sure about his castle business. Damn.
Yeah, I'm tempted to go Europe, but I'm going Solomon.
Ooh. I'm torn between the Lord and Europe.
I'll go with secular.
Aren't we all? Dan, Phil's in. Secular.
Germany. Germanic, yeah.
Angry brothers and castles. Phil says that's got to be a German.
It's got to be the Scottish.
Okay.
It's got to be someplace
I'm
with
going
castles.
Solomon.
I'm going to accept.
Switzerland doesn't seem like the kind of place that would have quarrels. They're pretty neutral.
I mean, but
historically,
their wisdom warns others, Phil. Maybe they're saying this to the East German. Okay.
You tell me.
Maybe somebody stole their horse.
Or, never mind. A brother offended is more unyielding than a strong city, and quarreling is like the bars of a castle. Solomon, Proverbs 18.
Boy,
Proverbs
Phil,
18.
that was the bonus round. That's 100 points out for you. That's too bad. Me and Dan look good, though. Way to go, Dan.
Look, we've soared ahead of you.
Here we go. Secular versus Solomon. Speak not of my debts unless you mean to pay them. Speak not of my debts unless you mean to pay them. Secular or Solomon. Dan, go.
Do you feel like you've got an idea of what he's going to say?
I feel like it's going to be something offensive.
I feel like I know where it's going. Go ahead, Dan. We're waiting.
It's secular and it's Italian.
Now, see, you set him up. He couldn't have said nothing without someone going, "Oh, Dan."
Oh, shucks.
You whippersnapper, you.
Chile always owes money. All right, Phil.
The Italians who moved to America.
I'm going to go with not secular. No. Come back.
Phil, there's not a pass.
I know.
Literally have nothing writing on this, Phil.
I know.
This is
I
late
know.
night internet radio. Nobody is listening. Go ahead and throw it out.
Secular.
I'm flabbergasted.
Trying to come up with a country now. Philippines?
Indeed, a country. Nailed it.
It's better than New York. For
You know what?
country,
That's 10
right?
points. Phil, you're a good boy.
I feel like it's secular. I don't have.
You can't say Italian.
It's short enough. I'm not going to say.
Phil
Italian.
says they changed their names at the Ellis Island for other reasons. It's not because they owe debts, like Dan is saying. yeah, Johnson. Giuseppe Johnson. That's Giuseppe. I owe nothing.
You don't know me.
It's pretty offensive, Dad.
I live here my whole life. I hang out on the island.
Mike, what do you think?
Well, speak not of my debts unless you mean to pay them, Mike.
Yeah, secular. Yeah, secular and Scotland,
Come on now. What's a country where they're like, you know what? Stay out of my affairs.
Russia.
North Korea.
North Korea. North Korea. Can I change my answer? That's right.
Argue with me again. China.
Here we go.
Give yourself 3 points for that alone.
Thanks, Phil. I'm gonna have to take it from you just for a second. Yeah, minus.
We reached our cap.
We got rules here, Phil.
Yeah, it's true. Rein it in. Speak not of my debts unless you mean to pay them. Secular Benfoot. England. England.
Dang, I was gonna say England.
Hey, man, England says stay out of my affairs.
Win.
They only share what they want to share in polite company. You don't get into your personal business.
I don't know that about England.
Come on. Haven't you ever watched Downton Abbey?
No.
No.
No, Bill.
I mean, no, sir.
I mean, I mean, it's quality.
I'm always on the island. I kind of watching the Downton.
All right, here we go. Secular or Solomon? Where are we at here? Yeah, final one. A society. Make some kind of noise, Phil, to indicate the final question.
I didn't see that coming at all.
I expected like a beep or a siren or something. Phil went with like a boat. You know,
It was yeah.
Come, bring it into the harbor.
Yeah.
All right, let me start over. You better hurry up and talk, because otherwise I'm just going to keep making noises,
It
Ben.
gets worse.
All right. The ever encouraging reverse Doppler. Thanks, Phil. All right, here we go.
Welcome.
A society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in. Hold on. A society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they'll never sit in because they will die. Secular
Dramatic readings by
Solomon.
Ben Foost.
Dan.
That's a secular, and I feel it just screams Ireland.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no opinion on this. All right, the Irish, otherwise known as a goodwill plaque. Go ahead, Phil.
It's not secular this time.
No, Phil.
It
Phil
is.
says no.
No, it's not.
I'm sorry. We do require you actually submit one of the choices.
I can't infer by saying not one, so the other.
No. We have a dense scorekeeper.
What?
What's the other option when it's not secular?
Solomon, Phil.
Solomon. It is late.
Phil's in for Solomon. Mike.
You're 150 in the hole, Phil. I ain't put over this garbage anymore. Yeah, that's secular Canadian. Canada.
Don't you know?
I'm going to lose 150 points.
All right. A society grows great when old men plant maple trees whose when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in. It is indeed secular Greece.
Man, that's close.
Greece. And them fellas are always
I
old
know I
in
had
Greece.
heard that before somewhere.
If you heard it before, it came from a Greek.
Probably during the Olympics.
Yeah. They make yogurt and wisdom. Greek. They also can't pay their debts though. I wonder if they have that English proverb. They use that one too. Stay out of my affairs. All right. You've mistakenly stumbled onto America's unproven, fastest-growing internet game show, Secular versus Solomon. If you want to see past clips of the show, because you know you do, go to livefromthepath.org and search for Secular versus Solomon. There's plenty of folks out there, quality guests that have visited the show and done absolutely horrible on the program.
Yeah.
And just like Bubba did. And so,
Yeah, boy, Booba was like 460 in the hole.
Yeah. I mean, pray for him.
night.
That's gotta hurt.
I mean, we usually run on like a 10-point scale.
Yeah.
I don't even know how he did this bad.
Yeah. I mean, that's a failure on a massive size. I mean, that's like sitting on a hurricane messaging for 4 or 5 days.
We really love him. We're all going to need to talk to him after the show.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll send him messages.
Yeah, if you love him, we'll bring it up.
I did it earlier today.
I mean, here's the deal. I could call Buva to repent of his ways at being so bad, but Phil forgot that Solomon was even an option 80% of the way through the game.
He could have been cutting it wise. Either way.
Who's the other guy?
I mean,
I knew it was definitely not the wrong answer. Was that the wrong answer, that one?
Yeah, I don't remember, Phil. Anyway, congratulations. Good job. And it's because you did such a great job, the thrift store priest is going to look at you for the rest of the program. Congratulations.
What a great honor. Hey, just for a heads up, Dan did win that game.
Dan, congratulations.
He was the only one in positive, and I even deducted him points just for his general personality and demeanor. And he was still in the positive. I mean, he really knocked it out of the park.
All right, Mike, who needs some advice?
Dear Live from the Path, my husband and I have been married for 26 years. We have a daughter, 25, who recently graduated from college. We will have a small gathering of close friends and family to celebrate.
Good.
During our entire marriage, anytime we invited my in-laws to birthday parties or other special occasions, they have never accepted unless we agreed for the event to take place in one of their homes. I feel at this point they no longer deserve more invites. Although they were invited to attend the graduation, of course they refused. My husband feels we should invite them even though he knows they won't come. I feel they don't deserve any more invitations, but my husband refuses to agree. I've never been unpleasant to them or spoken about how I have felt about their snubs. My daughter has also reached the point of not caring if they're included because she feels the same way I do.
Under your influence. Go ahead.
Am I wrong for feeling this way?
Yes. I mean, kind of.
Yes.
Just invite them.
It's understandable to feel that way, but it costs nothing but a literal breath or even less than that, a single text message to extend the invite.
Yeah, at the most, you're out 60 cents for a stamp and an extra couple copies of the invite. Send it out.
Yeah.
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 I mean, even if you're the conniving type, just use it as another nail in their coffin. Send another one out and go, see? They never accept.
Yeah. Just say, just continue to accumulate evidence until either you or they pass away.
Yeah. I mean, where are we supposed to host their funeral? You know what I'm saying? Like, these guys are completely unreasonable.
There you go. I think the funeral should be at your home. I mean,
well, couldn't
they
you
won't
just
care.
Couldn't they just plan better too? Just plan it at their parents' house and then let them know, hey, you're invited to your house for something on such and such a date.
That's true. Just have caterers start
Please
setting
make
up in the
sure-
morning.
No, caterers.
No, just say you will be serving chocolate cakes and rotisserie chicken. And just make it outrageous so they have to respond and say, well, we don't want to have it here.
And if they say yes and they roll with it once is enough to say, we're doing this again.
Every time.
I can't wait for the next birthday when we bring it over here and they just do what's told.
I would announce it. Like I would to everybody at the party, hey, if you tell them to do this, they'll do it. And either they'll change their ways or they'll be hosted parties till Kingdom Come.
No,
And those parties are going to get progressively bigger each event.
Yeah. Yeah. At the bare minimum, just send the invite. What do you care?
Yeah, that's true.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It doesn't appear that she even really wants them there anyway. But if you want them part of your life, then go to a neutral, go to a park or something. You know.
That's still not their house unless they're homeless.
Yeah, it sounds like they'll only do it at their place.
own. I thought it was just not at.
They wouldn't even go to the graduation.
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's
Which
right.
is assumed is at a center or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Secular says, not knowing why your in-laws are reluctant to celebrate milestones with you outside their homes, I can't guess their reason. However, you are entitled to your feelings, and from my perspective, you should have asked them the rationale for their reluctance years ago. That said, I do not think this is time to punish them, particularly because your husband feels so strongly about it. They are his family. Send them the invitation, and you'll be beyond reproach. Who knows? They may surprise you and attend. However, if they don't, it will be on their head and not yours.
That is a good point, though. This has never come up with conversations. Hey, Carol, how come you and Dave refuse to leave your house to come to or get together?
In 26 years, did they even go to the wedding? Unless it was at their house? 26 years is a long, very solidly consistent.
I mean, wouldn't you figure if it was health problems or they're just hermity people, she would have said so and be like, look, he's a bit of a recluse. He don't like coming out. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, if they had a reasonable expectation here. She's writing it.
This goes back to the wedding 26 years earlier. Something happened.
You know, if there was a concern, that set of parents would say, no, I object to the wedding. Not having it at their house
Except
was one
for
of the best choices.
They didn't like the dress.
They weren't there to see it. They were still at their own house.
Yeah.
They didn't go to the church.
They wanted to make
Glitch
the
was
flowers, and the bride wouldn't let her.
So, Dan, you think they're harboring some kind of insensitivity or long-term
Yeah, they got in a
petty
big argument over the wedding, process.
Or I wonder if let's just spitball with me for just a second here. Is it possible that they've actually done the lady writing in has done something so offensive and she knows very well what it is and is not saying so?
Yeah, at the wedding.
If they're still
I just
going
wanna
to
still
hold
be
grudges for
Like we
decades and decades, that would have been.
We kidnapped Carol and Dave's dog and sacrificed it at the wedding altar. But I failed to mention it in this query.
I don't know why they're so upset.
I can't imagine something that she's done that would be remedied if they had the celebrations at their house. What would be any? There would be no difference.
At least be on her territory, and they could watch the dog better.
No, that's true. If it really was the dog sacrifice thing, I suppose at least they could keep an eye on the animals.
Well, it doesn't sound like they have a strained relationship other than this, right?
Yeah.
It's just they just don't do events that normally you would celebrate, like big accomplishments.
Everyone has their quirks.
Yeah.
This is a weird story. Anyway, we've solved it correctly.
I
Yeah,
wanna
that's
know
true.
more.
Put a stamp on it.
Yeah, you're sending the invitation. Okay, dear life from the path. I'm turning 30 and I've had many relationships.
Oh.
Some of them lasted more than a year, but many have been short-lived. I've been engaged once and proposed to 3 times. It's a joke among my friends that I'm a serial dater, but I don't feel it's worth my time to sit around and be depressed about something that's not working out. I've been seeing someone now for the last 4 months, and I can honestly say I've never felt this way before. We complement one another in so many ways and have much to learn from each other as well. I am as in love with him as he is with me. My issue is, nobody around me takes it seriously because I've had so many relationships and, quotes, loved so many times.
Mm-hmm.
I try to tell them this is different, but they brush him off as just another guy who'll be gone with the wind someday. I don't want to take it personally, and I'm not usually the type to care about what others think, but it irks me because I am so passionate about this man. Should I try harder to make them understand or just enjoy the love that I'm in?
Well, yeah, what do you? I mean, let it speak for itself.
Yeah.
You still married 10 years, you can look around and go, ha. But if you break up with a guy in 3 months, you'll be like, yeah, you was right.
That and understand that if you have never been in she had never been in a relationship for longer than 1 year.
Yeah, 1 year I think it was, yeah.
Okay, so that sounds like you can have a fair amount of new relationship honeymoon that, yeah, if it lasts a year, you're doing really good. But if you haven't had anything that's lasted longer than a year, you should kind of have that expectation of your friends that, yeah, they will just nod their head and kind of give you the empty,
Right.
But until you break a year, no one, I wouldn't buy it from my friends either.
Yeah.
Serial dater or not, if you've never had a relationship longer than a year and you think, this is it, this is going to happen, and relationships less than a year and you've been engaged, wait, how many times?
3.
Ooh, yeah. Oh, I didn't catch that. That's right, Phil.
That's...
Yeah. You're right. You're
that's
not
hokey to me.
Your friends are right. You're not believable.
Yeah.
I'll start believing it. You tell me when you hit 12 months and we'll talk in 13 months.
And that has nothing to do with your relationship with this guy.
Yeah, right.
Just
Dan,
enjoy
get
it.
him.
Yep.
Yeah.
You trying to marry a man, or you want to spend a life playing ha-ha to everybody you know? Right? Like, what's your point in dating this man? You want to show everybody that you can date a man? Or do you want to get married and live and have a family?
14 months in your face, Becky. Like, what's the point of that?
Well, and if part of the question is genuinely, should I just enjoy the love? Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Right.
If that's really part of,
Well, I haven't
you
yet.
have terrible friends if it's a matter of you have to get permission from your friends or enjoy the love. You can't do those separately from each other. You have to have them together.
Yeah, right. I'm sorry, Bill. I got to date you at least 15 months. I got to show these people I can stick with something.
Yeah.
That's a real winner.
When we were dating, we moved our wedding date up from December to August. You know, so not a significant amount, but we moved the date. So all of my friends thought, you know, Cheryl's pregnant and everything.
Right.
And I wanted to run around and tell everybody, no, it's not the deal. We just wanted to get, I'd like to try to get her pregnant, you know. So that's why we moved the date up.
That's right.
You know? And but you know, rather than sit there and worry about it and you know, knowing what everybody was thinking, we just say, you know what, they'll figure it out. They'll figure it in 9 months. They'll figure it out. You know, it took us 5 years before we had our first one, and you know, everything worked. So they'll figure it out with this gal, with this relationship. I mean,
Yeah. If you're playing the long game, you'll win in the long game.
yeah.
Okay.
Relationships less than a year. Learn the long game. Read a book.
Right on.
First step in making that.
Read book. Next.
Secular says, just be happy. Sometimes the harder we try to sell something, the more resistant the buyer becomes. You don't have to convince anyone that this is a real thing. As the relationship develops, those around you will see it for themselves.
Yep.
That first half, 2/3 of the advice sounds like it talks to the guy who was trying to sell that magic stone.
Yeah, that's the truth.
All right.
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I know a guy. He been a solid alcoholic for 10 years. He come up to me one day and be like, "I quit drinking yesterday," and then I laugh and laugh. And I'm like, "What? You've been to less than 24 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like you quit no drinking. You know." And so like the same is true with the past. You've shown everybody a past and said, "I can be counted on to act in this way." and then you show up one day and say, I don't act that way anymore, you got to give people a little bit of time, to soak that in. And like you're not going to spend all your time proving it to them. Just, enjoy what you're doing.
Hey, you've been listening to Live from the Path. Thanks for hanging out with us. We really do appreciate it. Next week, I do not have any plans. Hey, here's what we got going on, though. Crystal Joy has her next book is out, and so we're going to be talking to her in October.
Cool.
Excited to hear that. And so she will be in studio. Look forward to that. Who else? Oh, shoot. Didn't we have someone else coming in? Hey, we're going to talk to a guy doing prison ministry.
Yeah.
We're going to hold to him because good news changes the world, even in prison. And so we got to see when we talked to Robbie and Aaron from the drug rehab side. We touched on the ability for that good news to help people while they're in prison. But I want to look at that a little bit more because good news changes the world, and we want to be reminded of how it's getting done. So hopefully that'll happen here within the next 2 or 3 weeks. And in the meantime, go ahead and check out livefromthepath.org. Old episodes of Secular vs. Solomon, musical numbers, and all that. Oh wait, someone else had a new. Who had a new album out? I'll remember next week. I'll get it for you next week. All right. In the meantime, be faithful in the means. God will handle the ends. You've been listening to Live from the Path.